The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
Man, Labor Day weekend got here in a hurry, didn't it? Actually, the way it falls on the calendar has created a unique loophole for the NFL, which, of course, they are taking advantage of a week from tonight. Mike Florio will have an explanation why they were able to do that. Later this hour, the Commanders are taking the weekend off. Dan Quinn giving them a mental break before the grind begins a week from Sunday when they open to Tampa. They're back on the practice field on Monday. And some interesting college football stuff from last night with some local ties. We'll get to that and more, plus the baseball as the Nationals host the Cubs tonight and the Orioles get out of Los Angeles, losing 2 out of 3, and are headed to Colorado tonight to try and get things back on track. They're still in pretty good shape, only a game and a half behind the Yankees. They're going to be a playoff team, but do they have enough for the postseason, particularly when it comes to pitching? They may get a break this weekend, and we'll get to that and a whole lot more. Before we get to the Commanders and some comments from Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels at news conferences yesterday, the cleanup on the college football from last night. Howard had a 6 o'clock start at Rutgers and kept it close for a while, and then Rutgers, which is what they call an FBS team, used to be 1A, and Howard is an FCS team, which they used to call 1AA. I thought it made a hell of a lot more sense when they did that because you could understand better what the divisions were about. But anyway, Howard, a lower division team, playing on the road at Rutgers, and they get housed 44-7. Which is, kind of what you expect in a game like that. Maybe you think that Howard can keep a little closer, but, Rutgers is wanting to fatten themselves up a little bit at the beginning of the season. Points don't hurt you, for sure. So Rutgers scored a touchdown on the final play of the game. Time expired as Antoine Raymond scored on an 11-yard run. I would have let that go, but the Howard coach, whose name is Larry Scott, said he didn't know why Greg Schiano, the Rutgers coach, did what he did at the end of the game, felt it could have been handled differently. Quote, I think we're both two competitive people, and in that situation, I would have chose to handle it a little bit differently. I can't speak for him. I have a lot of respect for Coach Schiano, what he's done, what he's been able to do, but we're both competitive, and in that situation, it's a little bit of frustration, and it came out. I thought I would have handled it differently, but he might as well. And Schiano said, and I agree with Schiano here. I'd like to see Rutgers lose that game. Washington local team, Howard, be a nice story if they go up there and win. But I don't have any problem with what Schiano did. And he said this. He said, guys practice all training camp. They deserve to play. There was no running it up. If I was running it up, then you don't use timeouts. Then you do use the timeouts, I guess he meant to say. You let the game end. That wasn't retaliatory. We're going to run plays. We bring a team in here to play us. We bring them here. We bring them in. We've got to win. We've got to get the reps, and they were there. We took them. If he was playing his starters at the end of the game, that's one thing. But having spent time on the Pine as a bad high school football player, and my son was a basketball player in high school and didn't get a lot of playing time. If you get playing time at the end of the game and it's a blowout and you can score, do it. I have no problem with that. And he said, Schiano went on to say, I'm very comfortable with the way we handle our team, that I handle our team, and if I wasn't, I'd tell you that too. So, again, stop them, and no kvetching from Larry Scott. Sorry. That's I have no problem with what Rutgers did at the end of the game. Jack Del Rio is back in college football. Remember, Jack Del Rio fired after Thanksgiving when the Commanders got housed in Dallas and Ron Rivera called the plays the rest of the year on defense, didn't do much better. Del Rio had come to Washington when Rivera got here from television. He'd been working a couple of years for ESPN, comes in here as the defensive coordinator, and I wonder if he wanted to get back to television, if his dust-up comments after the insurrection last year, or not last year, but in 2021, might have hurt his chances. He was not going to get a head coaching job in the NFL again, and I guess he wasn't going to get a defensive coordinator's job. So He has wound up on the Luke Fickell staff at the University of Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin is not the place you want to be, I don't think, if you have the political views of Jack Del Rio, but that is his new job. He's a senior advisor. They open the season against Western Michigan tonight. Fickell wanted to have Titans coach or former Titans coach Mike Vrabel, but he's now working as a consultant with the Cleveland Browns. So Jack Del Rio into college football and helping out Luke Fickell at the University of Wisconsin. And then this is just, so sad. Drake May leaves after 2 years as a starter at North Carolina. They're looking for a new quarterback, and they get one in Max Johnson. Now, that might not be a familiar name to you, but his dad probably is. Brad Johnson, who won a Super Bowl with Tampa, and before that was here in Washington as the quarterback for a couple of years. In 1999 and 2000, led them to a division title, and then Dan Snyder fell in love with Jeff George, and Johnson was thrown out of town only to go to Tampa to win a Super Bowl. His son started out as a quarterback at LSU. 2020 was a COVID year, so that doesn't count. His freshman year, he played a little bit there. 2021, he's the starter. But guess who transfers to LSU in 2022? Yes, Jaden Daniels. So he sees the handwriting on the wall. He goes to Texas A&M. He's there in 2022, plays some. Then last year, 2023, managed to start 8 games, but Jimbo Fisher got fired, and he realized he wasn't in their plan. So with 1 year of eligibility, he goes to the University of North Carolina, where Mack Brown is the coach, and he's the starting quarterback in last night's game. It's his last year of eligibility, and what do you know, third quarter, carted off the field with a leg injury, which looks serious. It's not 100% season ending, but more often than not, it seems like if a player is carted off the field, that his season is probably over. It's some type of a leg injury. I don't know whether it's a knee injury or not. But, man, he'd worked so hard, comes to a new school, wins the job there, and his season is probably over. He can probably get a redshirt year, play another year, which would be, I guess, a 6th year of college football. But that's just got to be a terrible, terribly disappointing thing. 3-star prospect out of Georgia, had initially signed with LSU in 2020, and then winds up 2 schools later at North Carolina, and we'll see what happens with his career, but it does appear that the season is over. So Dan Quinn in kind of a giving mood yesterday as they wrapped up practice after all the cuts were announced and the roster was down to 53, and said, kind of like, what is it? Is it McDonald's used to have this slogan, "You deserve a break today"? He felt that his team deserved a break this weekend.
I would be more in favor of everybody taking a break from it, because this is the only time that really happens. And so they put so much in. There's such an intense time for the players and the coaches in the time. So I encourage them, and then the coaches as well. Like, you'll actually have a clearer head sleeping on some things, and then by Sunday some new ideas will form. But you do need that, and that's why I'm in favor of this. In the old days, you guys remember, it was the 4th game, and then, man, you were trying to hustle and get right back to it. And so this has been good, and I think it's better for the mental health of everybody involved. The season's long, it's hard, and so having a little space to just breathe is a good thing before you get started.
That's for now. Enjoy it while you can, because the NFL sooner rather than later is going to go to 18 games and eventually 20 games, and there will be no exhibition season, and there will be more of a grind than ever. But you take advantage of what you have right now, and he's given everybody off until Monday. As for how he feels now that this, I guess, is the official end of the preseason, because next week you start the usual game prep with the game coming up a week from Sunday in Tampa, and asked yesterday where he feels his team is versus how he felt where they would be going into camp. This is what he said.
I think we're probably further ahead in some areas. We really pushed a lot of the situations, so we could be at our best in the end of the half and the end of the game. So going in, I thought that would be one of the hardest things that we'd have to do, because I just wanted to constantly challenge the guys. Could we be at our best at the end of the half and the end of the game? And so they were really down for that. They were ready to be pushed in that space, and we've really responded. So I'd say we're probably further along in that space. The one that you worry about as a coach, probably, if you ask the other 31, the line of scrimmage. for the big guys, because it's not throwing and catching and things that you can do without it. So usually the line of scrimmage play just kind of keeps improving, the run game, the run defense. And so those are some of the things that I worry about every year, but I think we're further along than I probably anticipated in some spots.
That, I think, is going to be the big question mark. Not defensive line. They're set there. They got Pro Bowl players there, and Payne and Allen, and they've got good linebackers now, finally. But the offensive line, I think that's what he's telling you there, that's going to be kind of a wait-and-see thing. And really hard to tell exactly from the preseason because they're not necessarily playing against starters. It used to be, back in the day, here he goes again, but back in the day, in the 80s, that's one thing you never worried about. The quarterbacks changed, the running backs changed, the offensive line did not. You knew that there was going to be Jeff Bostic lining up at center, Joe Jacoby joining at left guard, Russ Grimm at Jacoby left tackle, Grimm at left guard. Mark May pretty much stayed at right tackle. They kind of things they changed around a little bit, but by and large, you are confident in the offensive line. You're not as confident. You're hopeful, and I'm sure that they took a hard look at what they had on the offensive line, and they signed a couple of guys, brought them in. But reality is you got to find out how they're going to gel and how they're going to protect a rookie quarterback who will have a tendency to run, and they hope protect himself. But that I think where he tells you at the end, I like some of the things where we are at the skill position, blah blah. Line play is something that they're concerned about. Daniels also spoke yesterday, and everything he has said has been exactly what you want to hear from a rookie quarterback: humility, not going to try and do too much, et cetera, revealing his plan as he heads into the season.
Approach the day, try to get better each and every day. It's not going to be a finished product week one, but, just try to get better and go out there and go through some growing pains. As everybody knows, you're a rookie. You're not going to have everything perfect. You can strive for perfection, but it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be ups and downs, and just go from there.
And point number 2, this is a team that's been searching for a franchise quarterback essentially since Joe Theismann broke his leg. We had 20 years of stability with Sonny Jurgensen, Billy Kilmer, and Joe Theismann, and in the almost 40 years since. It's been a parade of quarterbacks. So, we've said this before. Hoped it was going to be Robert Griffin III. It was not. Dwayne Haskins, also a first-round pick, sadly passed away, but before that was released by the team. That didn't work out. So Daniels is here. The hope is he's going to be here for a long, long time, but he's also not counting on that and is planning to work as hard as he can to be that guy.
Just go out there and be myself, know who God made me, stay grounded, don't get too high, don't get too low, because at the end of the day, it takes a team to help people out. Can't go out there and, think I'm the savior, everything. When the plays are out there to be made, make the plays, but got to get the 10 other guys and the whole organization moving forward in one direction.
And stay healthy. Don't try to be a hero running the ball. Go down. That's going to be a key thing to watch with him. I don't know how much you're familiar with the Tom Brady story. Just to give you the cliff notes here, he's scheduled to be the number one guy for Fox in the booth and is going to make $37.5 million a year. But there is something going on right now which I think potentially could prevent it from happening. And Brady is up to be a part owner of the Raiders. Has to be approved by the other owners, and it is still several months away from being approved. While that process is in place, he really can't do his job with Fox. Won't be allowed to watch practice or sit in on production meetings with the coaching staff in person or virtually. That's a big part of it. They have those Saturday meetings with the coaches and a couple of key players where they pick up nuggets, a lot of it off the record, but they kind of can weave those things into the broadcast. He can't do that, and he can't be at practice on Friday. He's smart enough. He's new enough. Maybe that won't be a big deal, but that's the plan right now. And you kind of wonder why that's the case. Well, Nancy Armour of USA Today thinks that she has a reason. She says the NFL has had 2 massive cheating scandals in the last 20 years, and Brady's been involved in both. He served a 4-game suspension as part of Deflategate, though he's always denied complicity in the actual wrongdoing. As the Patriots quarterback, he stood to benefit the most from Spygate, in which Patriots coach Bill Belichick also was handed a 6-figure fine for stealing opponents' signals. And then she says that team owners don't trust Brady, even after all these years, might seem petty, but there's more than a few owners who are still salty about the scandals and the league's perceived favoritism of the Patriots during Brady's tenure, and they're not ready to let bygones be bygones. I know there's rules in place which say this is the case, but they also could have said, well, it's Tom Brady. He's got 7 Super Bowls. Yeah, let him do his job with Fox. And what she is saying here is that Brady can be an analyst or he can be a part-time owner of the Raiders, but he can't be both. And the NFL has made that call. So here's Greg Olsen, who's been bumped down to number 2 after doing a really good job as the number 1 guy with Fox. I wonder, if this had come along a little bit later with more years for what they had, that maybe this wouldn't be the case. But it's possible the season starts and Brady is not in the booth, and maybe as they try to adjudicate this, I don't know how it's going to work out. Or Brady says, okay, I'm going to table my interest in being a Raiders owner for another season. Consider that next year. Let me go through a season and let me do my job. That could be the case as well. Or the owners could say, no, if you want to be a part owner of the Raiders, these are the rules, and you can't be critical of other teams. They don't want intel. Everybody's afraid because this is a guy, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but this is a guy who was involved in Spygate, whether you think he was guilty or not, and a guy who was involved in Deflategate, whether you think he was guilty or not, he was punished for both, or at least his team was for Spygate. And I think the owners are very wary of that, and I would think a great solution now would be just if he's insistent that he wants to be a part owner of the Raiders, that Greg Olsen keeps his job and stays in the booth. And it's not like he's going to have to develop chemistry with Kevin Burkhardt, the number 1 guy. They worked together for the last couple of years, 3 years. So that's something that I really hadn't thought of. But yeah, Deflategate and also Spygate, and the other owners are going, oh yeah, really? Okay, well, watch this, Mr. Brady. Watch this. I don't know if Bob Kraft is feeling that way, but I guess some of the other owners might be in that position. Starting as a rookie at quarterback, Jason Garrett didn't play very much in his career as a backup quarterback, but he has experience as a head coach starting a rookie, Dak Prescott. Not in an expected way, but he has knowledge of how that all played out, and he shared it yesterday on the Dan Patrick Show. We'll get to that next. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
Just a note on the Brandon Ayuk signing with the 49ers. They finally got that done last night. 4 years, $120 million. That's the same offer that's been on the table since August the 12th. And it's just another example of what goes on every year. There's a lot of huffing and puffing, but both sides pretty much know what the deal is going to be. And at some point, the player blinks. The player tries to get the team to blink. And Ayuk did everything he could to saying, oh, they don't want me anymore, which was not true. He did a lot of flirting with Washington, hanging around with Jaden Daniels, who he played with at Arizona State. There was talk that he was going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Denver was supposedly interested in him. But in the end, he signed 4 years, $120 million, which has been on the table for more than 2 weeks. And the big leverage that the team always has is game checks. They don't really get paid a lot of money during the preseason. He has rung up a bunch of fines, maybe over $1 million, but those can be excused. And when you're going to be paid $120 million, they can just fold that into the new deal or whatever they do. I mean, it's really an odd dance that goes on every year, but I guess it's just part of the process in the National Football League. And I never really thought that Brandon Ayuk was going to come here. I know all the connections with Adam Peters, having worked with the 49ers and the Jaden Daniels thing, though. To Daniels' credit, he was never beating the drum for him. That was a good thing on his part. Leave it up to the organization. That's up to them. They were, hanging together, but they're friends. There's nothing wrong with that. But Aiyuk did everything he could to get himself out of San Francisco, and in the end signed for what the team was going to pay him from the beginning. Now, he has missed training camp. He's been there. He's been what they call a hold-in. He's been going to meetings and watching practice. But is he in game shape? Is he going to be ready to go? And, a lot of times you see this. A guy will have this kind of holdout, and the first game suffers a hamstring injury. I remember this. This was back in the day. And the Giants had a punter named Sean Lendetta. Sean Lendetta was a punter for like 20 years. I think he was the last man standing from the USFL. The USFL folded after the 1985 season, and he played, well into the 2000s in the NFL. But when I was covering the Giants, he had been their punter on their Super Bowl team, probably the best punter in the league. And he wasn't exactly cut. He was a little bit chubby all of his career. And so he had a holdout, and he was about, 2 or 3 weeks into training camp when he finally showed up. And Bill Parcells said, after they signed him, well, he better not pull a hamstring. And he was asked about that when he came in. He was very media friendly. And, no, I'm unashamed. Sure enough, first practice, pulled a hamstring. So these holdouts, especially with guys who are dependent on their legs like that, with wide receivers and punters, something to think about there. Jason Garrett coached the Cowboys for 10 years and, has not found work since, I don't think. I think since he was fired. So he's now doing television for NBC. Is on the Dan Patrick Show from time to time. And the discussion this year with all the rookie quarterbacks drafted, and we're going to have 3 of them starting. We might have had 4 had J.J. McCarthy not gotten hurt, but Bo Nix is going to start for Denver. Caleb Williams is going to start for Chicago. And, of course, Jaden Daniels is going to start here. And so Garrett has experience with starting a rookie quarterback, but as he told Dan Patrick, it didn't work out exactly the way they had planned it back in 2016.
We had Dak Prescott. We drafted him in the 4th round in 2016. But, Tony Romo was going to be our quarterback. And Kellen Moore was going to be our backup. And Dak was going to be our 3rd guy. And, Dak just played so well at the outset that we felt really good about him. But, he wasn't going to play. Kellen gets hurt in the preseason. Tony gets hurt in the preseason. All of a sudden, you go from 3 to 1. And we're all looking at each other like, okay, we got to figure out how we create an environment for Dak to play well. And we lost our first game. They won 11 in a row, and then we ended up winning 13 games. So it wasn't by design. That's not what we intended to do. But I thought we responded well to create an environment for him. And I think what you do as a staff is you say, okay, what does this guy do well? What has he shown us? Let's try to feature that. I don't know that there's any litmus test that you say, okay, I need to see this in order for him to play. The different situations are what they are. I think it makes sense for Jaden Daniels to play in Washington and for Caleb Williams to play in Chicago. But, they have Jacoby. They did that on purpose. Their team isn't necessarily great. Why not let him wait? He hasn't played as much football as Jaden Daniels did in college, so maybe he's a little less experienced. And I don't mind this route at all.
Tom Brady came out recently and said that it's a tragedy. We're dumbing offenses down for these quarterbacks. And I disagreed because a lot of these quarterbacks have played for 2 different schools. And, you saw that with Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. They're coming in at 23, 24. They've already been paid money. I mean, they're ready to go. So I know, Tom, it sounds like the get off my lawn back in my day, this is the way we do it. But are they dumbing down offenses for Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Bo Nix this year?
It's a great conversation. I think the kids growing up these days are so much more advanced in some ways than the quarterbacks way back when. There's all these 7-on-7 leagues. There's all this exposure when they're really young to throwing the football. They have these summer leagues and so there's a lot of throwing and catching going on in this generation that didn't happen quite as much in previous generations. So I think in some ways they're really advanced. In other ways, they're not. To Tom Brady's point, I do think there's like a simplicity that these guys grow up with. You hear a lot of people say, hey, it's a one-word play. The one word tells them everything to do. Like back in the day, the plays were longer. You need to know formations. You need to know variety of defenses. You need to know all these things before you're ready to play.
Give me an old school play call that you remember.
Oh God! I mean, I'll give you an easy one. Okay, explode the bunch right motor, scat right 525 F post swing. Right, and that's the digit system. And so, if you want it, that's the Don Coryell, Sid Gilman, Ernie Zampese, Norv Turner system, Mike Martz, those guys. There's also the West Coast system. Let me think of one there. Far double wing right, Z short, 72 flanker drive, that sort of a thing. And, they get much longer than that if you have shifts and motions and all of that. And I'm not necessarily advocating that, but there has been an evolution. And I do think you have to be careful of saying, okay, we're going to just make it easy on the player and kind of dumb things down. I think you need to challenge them. They're pro football players.
But if I look at now, you go to the line of scrimmage, I just have one word, and then we're going to go to the other play, right?
Well, that's been in football forever.
Yeah,
they used to call them check with me's. You go to the line of scrimmage, you have two plays. Then they became what you call kills and cans. We're going to run the first play till we kill it or can it to the second play. That's been in football for a long time. Now they have 3 and 4 and 5 plays you can go to the line of scrimmage with, depending on your offense. But kids, quarterbacks have grown up looking at the sideline and having a coach hold pictures up.
Yeah.
And nobody calls plays. So, that's part of football. You don't want to be, like you said, the guy screaming, get off my lawn. So there's an evolution there. But I also think you need to challenge not only quarterbacks, but all the players to be pro football players and to learn. And not to simplify it so much that you're not as comprehensive as you used to be. There's an interesting thing, Dan, that a lot of very smart people talk about. You need to understand learning styles of players, and I've had really good coaches share this with me, and it's something that we always valued. Okay, how does Dan Patrick learn? Okay, how does Drake May learn? How does whoever learn? Are they visual learners? Are they better watching film? Are they better in walkthroughs? Whatever that is. I think it's important to understand that. But if you are in football, you understand that in a meeting, typically you'll see a list of plays. Okay, that's the game plan. It's a list. And then that meeting will evolve to, we're going to show you drawings of those plays. Then we're going to show you film of those plays. Then we're going to go walk through those plays. Then we're going to go practice those plays. Then we're going to come back afterwards and watch the film of those plays. And then we're going to walk through them again. So whatever kind of learner you are, the essence of teaching in football has been you're going to get it a lot of different ways. So to say that he can't handle it, Patrick, he can't handle it, so we're going to give him one word. Sometimes I think you're diminishing the player. And I get things evolve. I get things grow. You want to keep it simple for guys, but at the same time, you want to challenge them and help them be pro football players. And I think that's probably the essence of what Tom Brady was talking about.
Okay, that's fair. But also, I think, aren't we saying to the entire offense, you guys need to learn the play? So if I have one word and I say it's banana, everybody knows what banana is. I don't have to give the tight end or the line blocking assignments, my running back. So why not make it more simple so your entire team they have to learn the system, not just the quarterback who's then going to be the conductor to the orchestra?
It's a great question, but if you look at a call sheet in the NFL, and I'm not necessarily advocating this, there might be 300 plays on an offensive call sheet for a game. Now, you're not going to run 300 plays. If it's a good offensive day, you run 70 of them. But there's a lot of different situational things that you have to be prepared for. They may or may not come up in a game, right? So the question for me is, okay, let's use banana. Let's use banana. Then we'll use avocado. We'll use orange. We'll use apple. We'll use how many of those fruits and vegetables can you use to get to the number of plays that you want? And my experience has been, for me, when you're saying, okay, banana means all these things, apple means all these things, Arizona means all these things, your brain only can handle so much of that stuff and know all the little specific intricacies of all the different things. Sometimes you want to tell a guy, hey, 525 F post. The F is running a post. Now, we used to call that Ernie because it was Ernie Zampese, right? We evolved to a word too. Scat right Ernie. Got it. Okay. But if you want to have the number of plays that you want and all the volume you have in your offense, you run out of fruits and states.
Okay. How about we do this, though, Jace? How about we just go, I'm going to throw the ball on a post pattern to Michael Irvin. That's the play.
What's the protection? What's the formation?
Just protect me. Just like, it feels like you guys like having your own language. That somebody has oily hips or they're a waist bender or, there's always some new 3 technique. There's every year you got to have a new one here. It's like you guys are lawyers and you're speaking to one another.
Well, it's a great point. I do think descriptions are great, but if you said, okay, instead of calling Aaron Donald a 3 technique, if every time you referred to the position he played as he's the guy that lines up on the outside shoulder of the left guard, you'd rather just say he's the 3 technique, right?
No, I would just say it's Aaron Donald. Like, I don't need to tell you anything other than that's Aaron Donald. He doesn't have a position to me. He's just
he needs to know where to line up, though.
Yeah, right? He knows where to line up, wherever he damn well pleases to line up.
All right, so that's Jason Garrett, former Cowboys coach, and just further debunking the idea that there are such things as dumb football players. You got to be able to figure things out and figure them out quickly based on a lettering, numbering, word formula that comes out, and it's all very quickly. And you got to process, and guys have problems with that. Heath Schuler may have had the great physical talents to play quarterback in the NFL. He couldn't process it mentally. That's the word on him. That's why that didn't work out for him. Jaden Daniels, what you're hearing is he's studying and studying and studying. That's a big part of it. Physical part of his game is huge. He could be the next Michael Vick. And Vick was very open about this at the end of his career, that he was regretful that he didn't spend time really learning things. If he would have put in the time in Atlanta and wouldn't have been involved in other things such as the dog fighting and so forth, that things might have happened differently. As it was, he went to jail for 2 years, came out, and was still great with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now we have a player who may be as fast as Vic and as talented as Vic and putting in the time to do it. And so that was, I thought, very instructive on the part of Garrett. And the people I used to work with Steve Zabin, who would say, just give me a month, I'll learn how to call plays. Well, you hear what Garrett has to say there, and it's the learning curve on that is unreal. And that's really, the guys who are great play callers, they have to have they look at that 300 play sheet that he's talking about and pick out the particular play for the particular situation and be able to execute it. And there's a lot of things with, same play, different formation. Like, that's what I heard about the Joe Gibbs offense. There really weren't that many plays in the playbook. There were just a lot of plays with different formations, which added up to a number of different possibilities. So I played that thing. It's long, but I want you to understand how complicated it is to play this game. The physical part is only a percentage of football. The mental part is much bigger than you might think. I think that is the most underestimated part of the game. Coming up, why are we having a game on a Friday night in the NFL a week from tonight? Why are they allowed to do that when they haven't in the past? Good question. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, answers that next. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
For all your glass, mirror, and shower door needs, visit DullasGlass.com. Dullas Glass. Love your glass. Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION to 42424.
Orioles baseball all season long on ESPN 630 is presented by Sprinkler Fitters Local 669. Saving lives and protecting property for over 100 years. Sprinkler Fitters Local 669.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Williams, and I want to share with you the role that diabetes has had in my family. I lost my grandmother at the early age of 64 due to complications with diabetes. She was warm, generous, and a constant encouragement for me to follow my heart. Did you know that African Americans experience chronic kidney disease at a rate that's 25% higher than white Americans? And we're almost 4 times more likely to develop kidney failure. Diabetes and high blood pressure are leading causes of kidney disease, which can result in kidney failure, needing dialysis, or a kidney transplant. The good news is that you have the power to check out how well your kidneys are doing and learn ways to prevent them from failing. So, go to your doctor and get yourself checked out. Visit linkmylovetv.org to learn more. Get the facts, get checked, and get healthy.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
As the 53-man roster comes out for the Commanders, they may have a rookie with the best name since Fair Hooker, who was a Cleveland Browns receiver in the 1970s. And he's got an interesting story, which we will get to in the next hour. Before we get to why there is going to be a football game, a real football game, not an exhibition game, but a real one a week from tonight as they play in Brazil. It's going to be the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles, and why the NFL has not played on Friday night before and why they're allowed to do it this year. We'll get to that in just a moment. I don't know how much of the Colorado-North Dakota State game you watched last night with Deion Sanders filling the place. You know, he's for whatever you want to say about him, and he's taken his share of criticism lately and should for banning a Denver Post columnist from asking questions at news conferences. But what he has done for the program, especially off a 4-win season, to create the kind of excitement he has is pretty remarkable. And one of the reasons is he's got 2 great players. One of them is his son, Shedeur Sanders, and the other one was his favorite target last night, Travis Hunter, who caught 7 passes for 132 yards and 3 touchdowns, but also took 43 snaps on defense, made some tackles, and looks like he could play either position in the NFL. He's going to be among the first players drafted, depending on how the quarterback thing shakes out this year, since this was such a rich quarterback draft we just had. He may go number one, which hasn't. I don't think that's happened in a while. That could be wrong, but I don't think a wide receiver, a corner or cornerback has gone number 1, and he could also win the Heisman Trophy. Rod Woodson is it Rod Woodson? No, not Rod Woodson. Forget who it was. The last guy to win the Heisman Trophy as a defense, Charles Woodson, when he was with Michigan. He won the Heisman and did play some wide receiver, but not like this. And I wonder about this when he goes to the NFL. There are a lot of great wide receivers. It seems like great cornerback is harder to fill. And Travis Hunter originally went to Jackson State when Deion was there, presumably to learn how to play corner from Deion. I think that was a big part of it, and he's such a great athlete. They play him at wide receiver, too, and he's the best wide receiver on the team. I wonder when he gets to the NFL if they might make him a corner who plays some wide receiver. Or could they, I think it's less likely, but I guess it would be possible, a wide receiver who comes in on long passing downs, something like that. But he's just too good at both positions to not be on the field playing both ways. Deion did it when Michael Irvin had a suspension in Dallas, played some wide receiver there. So you don't want to do it because, more snaps, more chance of injury, you're tired, more likely to get hurt. But this guy's a freak. I mean, he is absolutely spectacular. And to be that good at those two positions is absolutely remarkable. And, you think about the time that you got to put in for each position. You have the position meetings and learning the defenses and learning the plays on offense. We just went through that with what Jason Garrett explained there. So this is going to be a remarkable guy to watch. And I'm really going to be interested to see what happens with Travis Hunter as time goes on. If you're a Commanders fan, I don't know how you feel about this. Do you want to be drafting high enough to take him? And if not, he'll go to one of the really bad teams. Probably Carolina's going to stink again this year. New England's going to be terrible. There'll be a few teams that will be in contention, but he's I think no doubt going to be among the first three players taken in the NFL draft. So this game that we have coming up in Brazil, why is it happening on a Friday night? Why is the NFL allowed to do this? Well, they've taken liberties. They're playing games on Wednesday this year because it happens to be Christmas Day, and they know people are going to go home and watch it. So they've got 2 games on Netflix on Christmas Day. That's the way the NFL rolls these days. But they have not had them on Friday night because they have wanted to protect the high schools. It's part of an agreement that they signed. So as you look at the schedule here, there's going to be the traditional now Thursday night opener where Baltimore plays at Kansas City. But then the following night, and this is going to be Peacock only, this is getting more and more stretched out. They want more and more outlets for their games, but they're playing a first time ever in Brazil. It's going to be a Peacock only, and it's going to be on Friday night. And if you're asking why that's the case, here's Florio.
It's very simple. The Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which gave the NFL its antitrust exemption so it can bind all the TV rights together and sell them to the networks. Hey, you want Cowboys games? You got to take Jaguars games too. Sorry, Jaguars, that's just the first team I thought of. You got to take the teams that don't have a national profile. But it doesn't kick in until the second Friday in September. And they finally realized, hey, when Labor Day falls in a spot where the first Friday in September is the Friday after Labor Day, we can play games and televise games those days before and after 6 o'clock Eastern. Remember the Black Friday issue, they can't play Friday night. They're still in that bubble where it would violate the terms of the antitrust exemption because Fridays after 6 p.m. and all day Saturday, no football televised because they protect college and high school football. And that's been on the books since 1961. And that's the last point. And, I don't know if Pete is like working my strings like a master marionette or whether he just stumbled into this. He says, do not suggest they start the season on Labor Day weekend. It's our last good holiday. Don't let them take it away. The NFL used to start on Labor Day weekend. They used to do it, and then they realized, people aren't really home. They've got one last vacation. They've got barbecues, picnics, whatever. They're not watching our games. So let's push the whole season back a week. And that became, I think, a permanent thing in 2002. They experimented a couple of years. I remember 1999, they didn't. Maybe 98, they did. But whatever the case may be, they go to 18 games. Now, the easy thing is, 18 games, you add a week, and boom, hey, we got President's Day weekend. The commissioner's already suggested that. If you go to 18 games and 2 buys, the only way to make that happen is to pull it back a week. And look, sorry, Pete, but somebody at 345 Park Avenue is eventually going to realize, hey, who cares if people are at picnics or barbecues or they watch the game on the phone. That's the thing that wasn't around with this capacity to stream any game, watch any game, absorb any game. I remember being at a family reunion, 1992 and 3. My wife's family, before I was in the family, so I had to actually go to the reunions and do all the things to try to get into the family. Then once you're in, you don't show up as often. But I digress. I remember going to the car and searching the radio dial to try to get updates on the Vikings game. Week 1 of 92, it was Vikings-Packers. Mike Holmgren versus Denny Green. Week 1 of 1993, it was Vikings-Raiders with Jeff Hostetler making his debut for the Raiders. And the Oakland Raiders, no, the Los Angeles Raiders at the time in 1993. So, and you just got little flashes and glimpses, and you had no chance and no capacity to watch the game. So that's coming. If they do 18 games and 2 buys, Labor Day is going to be saturated with football again.
No question about it, because they are now targeting that February 23rd, or that weekend, the President's Day weekend, to have the Super Bowl. It's already in the middle of February, going to go a week later, and you're looking at playing 18 games. It ain't going to stay 17 for long. Maybe 2-3 more years. I don't think it's going to last until they can reopen the contract after the 2029 season. I think they're going to do something before then, because there's just too much money riding on this. Too many opportunities to spin it off to these places like Amazon and Peacock and others and make even more money. And the players will make more money. They'll accept that. The players stomp their feet. We'll never accept 17 games. Here's $1 billion. Okay, we'll accept 17 games. And that's what's going to happen when they go to 18 games. And watch out for this, because this is coming too. There is going to be a 20-game season, and the season won't start on Labor Day weekend. It'll start 2 weeks before then. These games will count, and they're going to do away with the exhibition games. They'll say to the players, hey, it's, we're just reconfiguring. Instead of having a 17-game season and a 3-game exhibition season, or they call it that preseason, we're just going to call it 20 games. And teams will get their practices in the same way they're doing it now more and more. And we saw the Commanders do this twice, practice against the Jets before they played them, practice against the Dolphins before they play them. And you could probably make the case, since it was ones versus ones when they were having these practices, that they're probably getting more out of that than they were the games. I know the games feel more like a dress rehearsal, but those have really just been moneymakers for the owners anyway. Now you're going to have a chance for them to make even more money, and a 20-game season is coming. And if you don't think it's happened before, the USFL did it. The USFL played a 20-game season. Yes, they did. And it's going to happen in the NFL. It's inevitable that it's going to happen. And what's, holding it up of playing Labor Day, they did look at the numbers, and they weren't as stout. But that was a different time. I remember the season starting in 1997 on August the 31st. Man, it was, they wrapped it up before Christmas. Well, now it's 17 games. You're always wrapping it up after New Year's, sometimes a week after New Year's. And the playoffs are stretching into February, which nobody seems to mind anymore. Remember there was a time, we can't touch February. So even like when they had the season, half the season knocked out in 1982, when you only had a 9-game regular season, they still made sure that they got the Super Bowl played before the end of January. Now, right now it's President's Day weekend. If it trickles into March, so what? The 2 bye weeks, I think that's a great idea. They did 2 bye weeks once during the 1993 season. They did start on Labor Day weekend that year. I remember that was the year. That was 93 was the year that the Redskins opened the season by clobbering the Cowboys. That was Richie Pettibone's first game, I think 35-16. And Tom Boswell wrote in the Post, Joe who? Meaning Joe Gibbs has been holding back the offense, but now under Richie they're ready to roll, and they finished 4-12 that year. But just in terms of scheduling, that's what's going to happen. And Florio's 100% right. At the time they made the decision to do away with Labor Day weekend as the opening weekend, things were different. That was over 20 years ago. So people didn't have smartphones. They weren't able to watch games on their phones. It was a different time. And I'm sure once they go to 18 that's going to be the solution. And then we've already had players like Joe Burrow discussing it. He said, and he didn't even say if we go to 18 games. He said when we go to 18 games, we need to have a bye week. Now, he's saying that they have to have a bye week for the whole league, like everybody gets the week off. Yeah, and that's not going to happen. They want consecutive weeks of football. They want product on the air because people watch the games and people bet on the games, and you got to have more product for them to bet on. And let me tell you this: these 4 teams that are going to play on Christmas Day on a Wednesday, the league might look at that and say, we may be able to configure things, especially late in the season when you can start to play Saturday games after college football finishes up their season, then we're going to use Wednesday too, because they've had some games on Tuesday. Monday and Thursday are regular days now, and late in the season you play on Saturday as well. So you can't stop the money train. Choo, choo, choo. It's rolling down the tracks. Coming up, more from Dan Quinn as they head into this off weekend, last weekend of rest before the grind begins, and Tom Verducci with some criticism of the Orioles and what they've done and why they failed to take advantage of what they could have. We'll get to that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. You know, Stephen A. Smith has done a number of interviews saying he wants to do so much more than sports. He has mastered all of this. Now he wants to do politics. He wants to do lifestyle. He just wants to be Stephen A. all the time. Well, there are some glitches in his day job, including one he had the other day, which tell me he really hasn't mastered his day job as much as he says he has. We'll get to that later this hour. More comments from Dan Quinn as the Commanders are taking the weekend off before they head into the regular season, and a little bit on free agency and making the team as a free agent. I got a couple of stories to tell you, and there are a couple of really good free agent stories on this 53-man roster for the Commanders, which we will get to later this hour. There is just a tragic story that is leading the sports news today. It was revealed this morning, I guess, in the last few hours on this. As one who rides a bicycle, it hits me very hard. I had a very serious bike accident 5 years ago, not involving a car, but I landed on the pavement, and the helmet saved my life. They were worried about bleeding on the brain. So I still ride a bicycle. I try to be as careful as I can. I ride with cars as little as possible, and some roads, like Old Georgetown Road, they have bike lanes which are separated by like little fences, so it's as safe as I try to make it as safe as I possibly be. This comes last night from New Jersey, where Columbus Blue Jackets winger Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew were riding bicycles, and they had tried to pass an SUV on the right that had moved over to make way for the two bicyclists. And apparently they were hit by a car where the driver is suspected of being drunk. He's been charged with 2 counts of death by auto, and the investigation is continuing. The reason that the brothers were together, they were scheduled to participate in their sister's wedding today in Philadelphia. And the Blue Jackets say about Gaudreau's death, he and his brother, it's an unimaginable tragedy. Johnny played the game with great joy, which was felt by everyone that saw him on the ice. He brought a genuine love for hockey with him everywhere he played, from Boston College to the Calgary Flames to Team USA to the Blue Jackets. He thrilled fans in a way only Johnny Hockey could. The impact he had on our organization and sport was profound, but pales in comparison to the indelible impression he made on everyone he knew him. Just absolutely horrible. You think about the family that's lost 2 sons, the sister. I don't know if they'll go through with the wedding or not today. I would imagine they would not. But just the thought of that getting ready for the wedding, just, spending some time together, riding bikes, which I do, which I like to do, and to be killed by what may have been a drunk driver, just god-awful. Just a horrible, horrible thing. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about that today. All right, let me get back to the Commanders as they take the weekend off, and also the Brandon Ayuk signing from last night. Now, Ayuk got 4 years, $120 million. That doesn't make him the highest paid receiver in the league, but it's a deal that the 49ers were ready to pay him 2 weeks ago, and he potskied around as long as he could. And the leverage that the team always has is game checks, and no player wants to miss a game check. And while Ayuk rang up like $1 million in fines, those are optional for the team to drop, and they may do that. That might have been part of the agreement to make the deal. So he's going to be in San Francisco this year. Any hope that you had that somehow they were going to work something out, because there was a lot of flirting going on here, especially with Jaden Daniels being his quarterback at Arizona State, and they're friends and they're hanging out together. And, Ayuk did everything he could to try and get himself leverage there, saying, oh, they don't want me anymore, which was not true. There was talk that he was going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I guess the Patriots were interested, but he didn't want to go to the Patriots because they stink. And one thing led to another, and in the end, he signs and he stays in San Francisco. So it looks like the wide receiver room, as they call it now, is set. And this is Dan Quinn discussing the signing of Noah Brown the other day. He was released by Houston, and how he will fit into this quarterback room.
This is a dog-ass competitor. Like, he is a really physical player. He's got a great background both as a receiver on teams. He's a fantastic teammate. And so when we had the ability to add him to this group, it was a very easy decision from the coaching side. And, Adam had, certainly scouted him and knew him. And so he brings a lot to our team. So I'm excited for everybody to get to know him and be around him. He and Terry were actually part of the same recruiting class at Ohio State. I knew they had played together, but I knew they had come in together. No surprise that these are two really class act professionals that they would have been hanging around years back.
Yeah, and look, Terry McLaurin, he's the number one guy. But is he one of the top 5 receivers in the league? No. Is he top 10? Maybe not. Is he top 15? Probably. He's probably in that group. But he's not the guy like an Ayuk, okay? That's not who he is. But he's a team leader. He's a terrific player, and he's going to be the leader of what they call a wide receiver room that Dan Quinn is fully intending to go to war with and be very happy about.
I really like the wide receiver group. It's not one size fits all. They're excellent competitors. We're moving guys into different spots. You've seen McCaffrey some in the slot. You've seen Diami outside with Terry. OZ you've seen in both space. Pringles, made a good push here. JC in the slot. So there's kind of just a good mix of players that are, I think, going to be exceptional at their roles. And the best of the best teams have that. And knowing that if you can do this one thing really, really well, we can build around that. You don't have to be exceptional at everything, but this one or two things I'm better than anybody at, and then you build around it from there. If you have the player that's exceptional at everything, well, that's a hell of a deal, and that's many $1 million later ball players. But what I can say is when you do with it through different people and they deliver, there's a lot of pride that goes with that on the team and amongst their teammates, and that's why I'd made the comment my favorite part of this team is the team. And they're just pulling for each other. They have really high standards. They're competing. We've had days like Miami and days like today, which are really hot, and just went after it. And I think that's a sign of a team that's just ready to go fight.
All right, so it's quantity versus quality. And if you have one of those guys and he stays healthy, that's huge. But if you invest the kind of money that it's going to take, which, here's the bar here, 4 years, $120 million, $30 million a year plus, then if you don't have that, you got guys who do different things and they can plug and play and make it work. And look, would I like to see a guy at the level of an Ayuk here? Yeah. but it's not going to happen this year. And what they keep talking about, both Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, the general manager, is they're still, building. They're not making predictions about how good they're going to be this year. It's going to be a wait and see. And so to invest in a guy who's coming off a Super Bowl playing with San Francisco and expecting, to be the guy here, and maybe he would be, there's a lot of other things that go into it. So I'm not at all disappointed the Ayuk thing did not happen. And it sounds like Quinn is, at least publicly, not saying that's the case as well. All right, we're off and running with college football. We got the game tomorrow between Richmond and Virginia. Coverage here will start at 5. Maryland is still looking. They know who their quarterback is. We will find out tomorrow whether it's going to be Billy Edwards Jr., who started the bowl game, MJ Mars, who transferred from NC State, or Cam Edge, when they take on Connecticut at noon tomorrow at what I think is called CQ Stadium. Used to be Bird Stadium for many years. It's now CQ Stadium. So that is where they will play. That will be at noon, and we will have the Virginia game here as well. Don't forget, I'm going to be here on Monday for Labor Day. Bram Weinstein is coming up next. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you back here Monday morning at 9 a.m.